Good day, everyone. Since we are done with the caregiving tools, equipment, and paraphernalia, this time I will be presenting to you the proper usage of some caregiving tools, equipment, and paraphernalia used for meal preparation, for washing, laundry, and ironing, as well as for taking vital signs. Come on, let us start learning. And now, we will start our discussion with the steps in using a blender. First, look for a flat, dry surface to operate the blender, like the table. Second, make sure that the blender is clean and in good working condition. Check the switch, the plug, and the cord, as well as the blade. Third, put the pitcher to the blender base, then plug in the blender. Fourth, pour in the ingredients and close the lid tightly. Fifth, begin blending by selecting the appropriate setting for the task. Number 6, use the secondary lid if you wish to add food, ingredients, or ice. And number 7, clean the blender after use. Remember, do not wash the blender base with water. So those are the steps in using a blender properly. After knowing the steps in using the blender, I will now present to you the proper usage of a coffee maker. Come on, let's watch this.
To use a coffee maker, start by placing a coffee filter in the filter basket. Then fill the filter with 2 tablespoons of coffee per every 6 ounces of water you'll be brewing. Next, fill the coffee maker's water compartment with however much water you want to use. Once the water, filter, and pot are in place, turn on the coffee maker and wait for it to brew the coffee. When it stops brewing, take the pot off the hot plate and pour yourself a cup of coffee.
After knowing the proper steps in using a blender and coffee maker that are used for meal preparation, we will now proceed with the proper usage of common equipment used for washing, cleaning, and laundry, like flat iron. Step 1. Prepare the necessary equipment. Step 2. Check the care instructions of each garment before ironing. You can determine whether it is for low heat, medium heat, or high heat. Third, set up the ironing board near the outlet and plug in the iron. Fourth, preheat the iron for about 2 to 5 minutes. You can choose the appropriate setting based on the material of the clothes that you will iron. Therefore, it is a must that you know what kind of cloth you will be ironing. Fifth, stretch the garment across the ironing board. Run the iron over the hem to test if it is already hot. Number 6, move the iron over the pants, polo, or shirt, and take note of the pleats and pockets. Number 7, hang each garment that you have ironed to keep it from wrinkling again. And lastly, we should unplug the iron and allow the unit to cool before storing it to the box. So those are the steps in using the flat iron properly. And now, I will present to you the proper usage of using a washing machine. First, start by sorting the clothes of your client. Remember to separate first the white and the colored shirts or clothes. Second step, fill the unit with water based on the manufacturer's manual. It also depends on the number of clothes or fabric that you will be washing. Third step, put detergent and put the clothes loosely. Load accordingly as specified in the manual. So remember that before using any equipment, you should read first the instructional manual. Fourth, close the lid and turn on the machine. Let the unit work through all of the cycles. And wait for the machine to turn off before you unload the washed laundry. And lastly, turn off and unplug the unit. So those are the basic steps in using a wash. Congratulations, because you already know the proper usage of equipment used for meal preparation like blender and coffee maker, as well as the equipment used for cleaning, laundry, washing, and ironing like flat iron and washing machine. Let us now proceed with the proper usage of a digital thermometer in checking our body temperature. Come on, let us watch this video.
One of the most important things you need to learn when your bundle of joy arrives is to take his temperature. Knowing how to take your baby's temperature could save his life. All you need is a digital thermometer, nothing fancy. You can find digital thermometers in any brand name drugstore for less than $10. They're easy to use, easy to read, and they will give you an accurate result in seconds. Once you have your digital thermometer, the big question is, where do I put it? The mouth is out of the question until your child is a little older. The other options you have are the ear, the armpit, and the rectum. Each method has its advantages and disadvantages. Let's take a look. Ear thermometers are generally quick, safe, and comfortable. The only problem is they're a little tricky to use. If you don't insert the ear thermometer exactly right, it can be hard to get an accurate reading. So don't rely on an ear thermometer until you get the hang of it. And remember, never use ear thermometers on babies younger than 3 months, because you'll never get a good enough reading with their ear canals being so small. Some doctors recommend taking a baby's temperature under his armpit. They call it the axillary temperature. For an armpit reading, undress your baby from the waist up and try and keep him relaxed. Make sure your baby's underarm is dry. Then slip the bulb into the armpit and make sure you have full contact with his skin. When the thermometer beeps, take it out and read the display. The rectal method is the most accurate, but there are risks involved, especially for babies under 3 months old. If you need to take the rectal temperature, here's how to do it. Look for a model with a flexible tip and a wide handle that won't go more than 1 inch deep. Clean the end with alcohol or a little soap and warm water. Rinse it with cool water and coat the end with a little petroleum jelly. Hold your baby bottom up on your lap, letting his legs dangle over the side of your thigh. Spread your baby's buttocks apart using your hand and gently insert the bulb about 3/4 of an inch into his rectum. Place your fingertips on the baby's bottom to prevent the thermometer tip from moving. When the thermometer beeps, remove it and read your baby's temperature. For more tips on how to keep your baby safe and healthy, don't forget to subscribe to our channel by clicking here. See you next time.
You are now familiar with the proper usage of digital thermometer. I think you are now excited on how we properly use Aneroid Sphygmomanometer in order to check our blood pressure. Come on.
Alright, so after we take the heart rate, we move on to blood pressure. And so there's some equipment that you need to have prepared for this. This is the blood pressure cusp, and so this whole black Velcro thing is what you wrap around the patient's arm. And you have the pump right here, which you pump up to put air in here, and that's what gets it tight around their arm. And so before you begin, you got to make sure this is twisted all the way to the right, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So when you have it all the way to the right, that's how you close it off so that air actually pumps into here. Otherwise, you'll keep squeezing and nothing will be happening. The meter, so when you pump it up, you can gauge how much air you have in by how high the numbers are. And you listen for the pulses with the stethoscope. When you put it in your ears, make sure that these prongs are facing forward, not backwards. Even though that's what you think it should be, you face it forward. And double check to make sure it's on by twisting. You can twist this and tap on it. So you hear, right now it's not really making a noise in my ear, but when I twist it, then I can hear it. And so that's how you know if your stethoscope is on and working. Otherwise, you might be sitting there and be thinking this person has no pulse, when really your stethoscope is just turned off. And then you have the patient put their right arm up on the table, and we use the right arm just for consistency throughout all the tests. So what you're going to do is you're going to try to see if you can find a pulse on the brachial artery. It's usually towards the inside of their elbow, around here. And you kind of just take a little mental note of that. And you're going to wrap the cusp around their arm. Keep it snug but not super tight. You just don't want it to have it loose and wobbling around. So you put these in and put the head of the stethoscope right where you had that pulse. And double check to make sure this is all the way tight. And you're going to squeeze. And by doing this, you pump air into the cusp. So I'm going to pump it up again just so you can see in the camera what's going on. So we have it up to about 200, and then we slowly let some air out. And that's where I heard my first thump, and you can see the dial bouncing up and down. And the last thump I heard was at about 64. So I got about 118 over 64, because that's where I heard my first thump, heard more, watched the dial bounce up and down, and about 64, I didn't hear anything anymore. But essentially what you're looking for is when you release the air, you'll see the dial go, and you'll begin to hear thumps, usually around 120. That's just kind of an average. Some people might be a little higher, a lot of people are lower than that. And what you're hearing here is the first thump is their systolic pressure, so that's when the heart has contracted and that's their highest pressure. And you'll continue to hear light thumps, and the last thump you hear is the second number you record, and that's their diastolic pressure, and that's when the heart is relaxed and it's refilling with blood. A lot of times people are a little scared of because it's kind of the more challenging one, but with a little bit of practice, you guys will be stars.
So that ends our discussion today with the proper usage of caregiving tools, equipment, and paraphernalia. That's all for today. Thank you, and always remember that NTLE, matututo ka na, kikita ka pa. Take care and goodbye.